Hi there. Okay. Sorry, I say hi there all the time. I have to come up with something different. Okay. Anyways, today we're going to count atoms. It's not very difficult, but if you follow the same pattern all the time, you'll never leave something out, and that is the thing that can happen often. Okay? So, how to count atoms, turn to page 6 in your booklet. Okay? So it starts off by looking at a chemical formula. We can figure out how many atoms of each element are needed to make up the compound. Remember that the number of atoms on each side of the arrow, okay, must be equal. That's the big thing about balancing equations. The law of conservation of mass is that nothing can be created or destroyed. We can't all of a sudden spontaneously make something. It has to come from something, okay? So step 1, I have a highlighter here just to point out some important stuff. You can use this or underline or whatever works for you, okay? Step 1, look at the subscripts, okay? So these are the small numbers on the right side, okay, of the element. The subscript will tell you how many atoms of the element it is beside that you have. If there's no number to the right, that means there is 1. Because if there was none, you wouldn't have that symbol there at all entirely, okay? So let's take a look here. Example, we have P2O5, and I always set it up like this. I write each element symbol here, and then I write my information to the right, okay? So if I look, to the right of P is a 2, and to the right of oxygen is a 5. Okay, that's it, done, okay? Example number 2, we have silver and chlorine, okay? How many silvers are there? And how many chlorines are there? So this is an example where there is no subscript beside the AG, so that means there has to be 1, okay? Next one, look outside the brackets, okay? The subscript, or the number to the right of the brackets, tells you how many times to multiply the atoms on the inside. If there are no brackets in the chemical formula, so if there are no brackets, you can skip this step, okay? So this only is important if there are brackets, okay? So here we have Mn bracket OH bracket 3. Okay, so the first thing I would do is write out my elements, and I start with how many capital letters. Okay, so the first capital letter I have is M, next letter is lowercase n, so that's 1 element. My next capital letter is O. Okay, next letter is also a capital letter, so that's a new element. Okay, so I start with step 1. So what's my subscript after Mn? Well, there's nothing there, so it has to be 1. What's my subscript after O? Nothing there again, has to be 1. And what's after the H? Nothing, has to be 1. Okay, now step 2, look outside the bracket. Okay, the bracket is only around OH, so that means this 3 is only applied to the oxygen and the hydrogen. Okay, so nothing for Mn. But for O and the H, we multiply it by 3. So what is our total? 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 3, 3. Okay, so you always start with step 1, then you do step 2, then you do step 3, etc. Okay, that way you don't miss any atoms. Okay, now your turn. Hg, NO3, 2. I want you to try it out. So for Hg, I have 1, no subscript, N, 1, no subscript, oxygen, 3 is the subscript. Okay, the brackets are around NO3, so that means we don't have to multiply mercury by anything, but I'm going to multiply nitrogen by 2, because that's the subscript, and oxygen by 2, because that's the subscript. Okay, now multiply across. What do you get? 1, 2, and 6. Okay, turn the page. Okay, next one, Ca3PO4, 2. Okay, so start again. You do this, and then let's check our work. How many calciums do we have? Subscript 3, right on. Subscript after the P, nothing. So that's a 1. After the O is a 4. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, the bracket is around PO4. Okay, and the value outside the bracket is a 2. Okay, so I'm going to multiply P by 2 and O by 2 as well. Okay, not the calcium. Multiply across, we get 3, 2, 8. Okay, and you're going to quickly see that compounds will have lots of hydrogen and oxygen. If they're in the compound, they have lots of them, so don't be surprised when they are quite large. Okay, and the last step is step 3. Okay, it says look on the left side of the chemical formula. If there is a number on the left side of the chemical formula, you multiply every element by this number. This is the last step. If there's no number on the left side of the chemical formula, you can skip it. This number is called the coefficient. Just like in math, you would have heard this term before, and it tells you how many of each compound you have. So, for example, 4H2O means that you have 1 molecule of water, 2 molecules of water, 3 molecules of water, and 4 molecules of water. Okay, so this 4 means we multiply everything, okay, by 4. So let's take a look. Example number 7 says 3N2S3. So we start with step 1. What's the number beside N to the right? Well, that's a 2. What's the number beside sulfur to the right? Well, that's a 3. Okay. Do we have any brackets? No. So ignore step 2. Do we have a coefficient? Yes, and the coefficient is 3. So everything will be multiplied by 3. Okay, then you multiply across. Total nitrogens, 6. Total sulfurs, 9. Okay, here are the next two. We have Fe, and that's a capital I. Okay, and then O42. And then here we have 3. This should be PB. Sorry about that. And this should be Cl and then O. Okay. So let's do this one together here. What's the subscript for iron? Well, there's nothing, so that means it's a 1. Iodine, also a 1, and oxygen is a 4. This time we have a bracket, okay, and it encompasses iodine and oxygen, and there's a 2 outside the bracket. So iodine and oxygen for step 2 multiplied by 2. Nothing for step 1 for iron. And step 3, there is a coefficient, and it is the number 2, so that means everything is multiplied by 2. Okay, so multiply across. 1 times 2, 2. 1 times 2 times 2, 4. 4 times 2 times 2, 16. Right on. Okay, try number 9 on your own. Let's see what you get. Okay, right on. Turn the page. I've given you some ones to try. I'd like you to try a couple and then put your answers in a puzzle, okay? Let's try this one here. How many atoms of each element are in number 2? Okay, so we have Al, S, and O. Al, S, and O. Okay, and now I want you to do step 1, step 2, step 3, and then the total. Okay, give it a second, try it out, and let me know what you get. Excellent. Okay. And let's try number 7. No, number 6. Okay. So we have PB, P, and O. Try it out and let's see what you get. There we go. Okay, I want you to try the other ones. I'm going to put my answer key up and you can compare what you got to what I have. Okay, awesome job. Way to go.